us, there's two things. There's the strategy and then there's the execution. And on the strategy side, I think that's pretty straightforward. Most fintech companies know their strategy. They know their target market, they know their target audience, they know who to go to where. Getting in is the challenge. And so the big issue there is access, right? And so how do you get access? And people do very well in access in their core markets. So what we see is in their core market, either core country or their ecosystem, they scale from 0 to X reasonably fast and reasonably well. Where Pangea comes in is when you want to scale past that. So what we do is we basically draft behind that, companies that have product market fit, we draft behind that and let them scale globally. So we have offices and entities all over the world, and we take our ecosystem and draft into that. So you're a European fintech and you want to scale into the US, we've got multiple people, partnerships from SI to tech partners, et cetera. And the reason for that is going direct is very, very difficult because you don't know who, you don't know how, and you don't know the mechanism to do it, and you don't have enough time to get it wrong. So Pangea is a mechanism to basically circumvent that and go direct into it with a partner behind it. Yeah, the ethos is, it's a very difficult thing to do. So in concept it's very easy, but in practice it's very difficult. So it's a very difficult thing to do to scale a business. So our perspective is, anything you can do to de-risk that exercise is hugely valuable. And we de-risk it because, like I said, we have the multiple channels that support it. And then our clients take our people in-house. So it's a sort of build, operate, transfer model. Say, okay, cool, once we do that, we can de-risk the front end scale to get people from 0 to X, and then take it in-house and live happily ever after. And so it's not that people aren't good at sales, it's just very hard to crack a market. So if there's any expertise in cracking new markets and new verticals, the sort of support behind that is great. And the world exists between tens of thousands of people who give you a perspective on it, a strategy on it, a playbook, et cetera. Pangea's view is that's helpful, but not truly helpful. You need people who can actually do the execution, that have the partnerships, that have the relationships with the banks, that have the sort of relationships with the people you want to bring in-house to support it. So that's our perspective. So we put very specific lanes around the sort of areas that we work. And unlike every consulting company, right? So McKinsey works with JP Morgan and Goldman's, right? So putting sort of IP barriers there has been a problem that's been solved for a long time. So we're very thoughtful around that and security. But what we do is we basically put a draft behind all the people saying, okay, in payments, we work with this company, but in core banking, we work with these companies. You guys, there's a natural correlation, or AML and KYC, these companies, there's a natural draft between all of those companies. And so it gives us a perspective, because one of the hardest things to do is not only do you know where to go, but in a specific account, say, let's say it's HSBC, people speaking today, who exactly at HSBC has the budgets? What's the history of, does this pilot program, like you mentioned before, does this pilot program pay off, or do they do 40 of those and execute on 2? Pangea has a view on that because we've got 10 companies in any given day selling to HSBC. So we have a very specific, very real perspective on how to sell to HSBC, who to sell to, who are the coaches, who are the sponsors, and how to actually break that account. So that is huge values for our partners, and we let people work with us saying, if you want that information, we have that. If you don't, then we'll just a channel for you to go direct. Either way, there's a ton of IP that sits in Pangea in terms of what's actually moving the market, who's making decisions, how they make decisions, why they make decisions, et cetera. We've got a fair amount of perspective on that.